In the usual advanced manufacturing way, we exercised precision timing, we followed standard work, and we came out here with the proper information and the proper person presenting the information. We did 4 questions really in our area. Number 1, we talked about the morning that we had. We talked about the priorities that we should take out of these sessions moving forward. The number 1 priority that was put out there, and it was put out there almost immediately, was retention. Focus on the businesses that are here. We want to grow, but the best way for us to grow is on retention. Take a holistic approach. Don't just be too focused in one pillar. Make sure that as we grow and as we move in all the pillars, take into account the community as a whole. Engage the next generation. Make sure that when we're doing events like this, it's, I hesitate to say us old people, but it's making sure we engage all the generations in the process as we move forward. Training and education came up. Adaptability in industry came up. That we are in a changing world, and it is changing faster than it has ever changed before. We need to make sure we're on top of that. Structure. It was noted that tourism, and this is a very correct notation, it's noted that tourism is the furthest along of our 4 pillars because it had and has the best foundation structure in place, an organization in place. And then partnerships with education is another priority that we need to focus on as well, but not waiting for the I'll say the Ministry of Education, but finding ways to work with education outside of the normal streams that may take a little longer than we want. The next question we went through is barriers. What are the barriers to success? What are the barriers to being able to move ahead? And there's a number of different things that we came up, and I'll go through them rapid fire because that's the way we ask for them to come to us. Number 1 is transportation. We are a ways away from the 400, and both transportation routes have some challenges. Whether it's 93 or Highway 12. Development is a barrier. Education, particularly in the trades, will tie in skilled workforce in this area as well, is a barrier to our success. We need to find ways to work through and move around those types of things. Regulation at various levels, but in particular, we talked about regulation within the municipal levels and trying to focus on those things to see how do we identify and how do we remove any of those barriers. To make us more competitive outside of our area in the provincial and in the global environment. And we talk about taxes and taxes in the local municipalities in particular, and making sure that we align ourselves effectively so that companies don't turn away because of what they see as bottom line foundation costs. And another interesting thing that came up in here, and this was from someone who's joined us from outside our area, is perception. Which I hadn't thought of, quite honestly. I had made a list of things as discussion starters, and perception wasn't one of them. People don't necessarily look at us the way we look at ourselves and the way we are truly. And we need to make sure we work on changing that perception. When we take a look at who we need at the table, that was question number 2. Who do we need at the table? Bill had gone through a number of different organizations, different levels, and so on that need to be at the table with us. And those came out in this as well. We have our private industry, private citizen partners, the government partners, federal, provincial, municipal, social services. It was very nice that we had a very good cross-section just in our little breakout session where we had social services represented, we had industry, we had retail, we had government, we had a number of different representatives, but having that social service and environmental representation is important for us. In terms of EDCNS and what can EDCNS do to help move success or drive success forward, the number 1 thing that came up for us is aligning resources, and that came up in a couple of different ways. Number 1 was aligning resources from a funding standpoint. It is an incredible challenge to navigate through where the different funding opportunities are, and it turns people off in terms of going and chasing that funding. So we can play a role in helping facilitate that process. We can also play a role in terms of aligning resources locally so that when an industry is looking to expand, we can help them gather together the people that they need to help them through that expansion or to help them through that relocation. The linkages, we can draw those linkages between different organizations, and we can drive, our role is to drive not just the vision, but the tactical requirements of the action plan as well. We need to make sure that we're driving those steps forward, because if we don't have a driver, if we don't have an owner, then things aren't going to move forward. That was our wrap-up for our manufacturing group. Gentlemen, is there anything I've missed? Nope. All right, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for joining us.